Hello, students, friends, actually, right? Students, and you all are welcome, right? On a good Sunday evening after your dinner, maybe, right? Your exam is around the corner, right? So when CS Sri Lanka, especially the team, has requested me, Aruna and the team, to conduct this session on PPM pre-scene material. It was my pleasure to give you some insights and guidance with regard to the pre-scene which has been shared with you all. I think now you all are pretty much ready for your exam with all your busy schedules. So without taking much of your time, friends, let's go through the pre-scene. We take about, let's say, 45 minutes of your time to discuss the pre-scene, and then about 10 to 15 minutes to discuss about the areas which are relevant to have a kind of a Q&A session based on the pre-scene. Right, so PPM students is all about testing your practice, right? Professional practice management skills. So evaluate the pre-scene always from the point of view of a partner of an audit firm. That's what really important, right? So always, if you are think that you are a partner, maybe in strategic level, how you are managing an audit firm, quality control, ethics, governance, right, from the auditing standards, how you are managing, how you are addressing the points. That's what is more important. So students, friends, in the meantime, I'm always, right, referring as students, but you guys are friends of us. So I will be sharing my screen, right? You all would have gone through. There are a lot of areas, issues which came into my mind, right, in terms of this, the pre-scene that was there, right? It's an aviation company, no? Aviation company, which is somewhat similar to the case, is somewhat similar to the context of the Sri Lankan Airlines, right? That's the first thing that came into my mind, right? How does the Sri Lankan Airlines operate? The kind of context of it, and also particular relevant issues which are relevant to the Sri Lankan Airlines. Those were the points that came into my mind. And from the auditing perspective, we will go through one by one. We will just scan through, right? Since we don't have much of a time, we will just scan through the pre-scene and we will just discuss. And in the meantime, students, if I am referring something important to you, you may quickly jot down those points. That's the request from my end, because students, we don't have much of time to kind of give you notes and all. Just I will be discussing these points. So at that time, if you find anything is important, just drop down that in your notebook as well. That's the importance, that the message from myself, right? So let me share you my screen, everybody. So I'll be sharing my screen with you all, right? Okay. So students, pre-scene professional practice management, PPM, April 2025. You are quite exposed to pre-scenes, right? At your previous exams as well. Maybe your strategic level, you would have, you are exposed to pre-scene, and your SL5, your case study exam also, you are exposed to pre-scene. So this case is all about Island Sky Airlines, ISA, right? PLC, which is a listed company, students, right? Island Sky Airlines PLC, which is a listed company. So the governance, the corporate governance, is something which is important to all of you. Island Sky Airlines PLC, since it is listed as a PLC, right, listed company, which is important, where good governance, corporate governance has to be there. But from the governance angle, from the auditing perspective, I have seen so much of governance weaknesses in this case. So let's one by one closely take up those points. Right? It's a fleet of 20 leased aircrafts. Now, if you take Sri Lankan Airlines, they have about 27 to 28 aircrafts. It's here about 20 aircrafts which are on operating lease, right? They have domestic routes, with international and domestic routes spanning for about 40 destinations. Owned entirely by the Sri Lankan government, ISA operates through 4 subsidiaries, each playing a critical role. First one, Island Sky Catering Private Limited, one of the subsidiaries. The subsidiary of ISA, which is Island Sky Airlines, stand out as a cornerstone of the profitability within the group. Students, catering service is profitable. If you take the segmental information, catering service is profitable by providing premium in-flight meals. They have strategic partnerships with whatever the airlines which are coming into Colombo Airport, Katunayake Airport. For those aircrafts also, this catering service will provide the catering services to those aircrafts as well. So therefore, this is somewhat a profitable business, Island Sky Catering. Then you have Island Sky Airport Taxi Service. Students, in contrast, Airport Taxi Service subsidiary has been grappling with persistent losses, inefficient in operations, such as underutilized fleets. Fleets are not utilized properly. Certain fleets would have been grounded, right? Inconsistent flight scheduling, inadequate customer service have been noted. So when you take these points, students, inadequate ground service, poor customer service, right? No proper scheduling of aircrafts. So first and foremost point that came into my mind is the going concern, Sri Lanka Auditing Standard number 570, the matters which are relevant to going concern. When you refer to the financials of the company, the group also, students, PLC also, we see a lot of financial indicators of material uncertainties of going concern. Students, material uncertainties of going concern is also there. What are the material uncertainties? If you have gone through, there are a lot of flight delays, inadequate scheduling of flights, poor reputation, IT system breakdowns. You would have seen, students, cybersecurity issue which for until 7 days they couldn't identify. For me, they have a really big impact of going concern. So if you are an auditor, if in the exam, if you are asked to provide a going concern, if you are asked to provide an audit report on this, going concern should be a pivotal matter that has to take your attention. Going concern, you may write down when I'm saying, right? Sri Lanka Auditing Standard number 570 will be an important area which you have to consider. So financial, operating and other indicators, material uncertainties of going concern, here you have. So you need to see whether the business has proper mitigating actions. Yes, going concern issues will be there, but if you take the classic example of Sri Lankan Airlines, whatever the losses that the Sri Lankan Airlines is incurring, the government of Sri Lanka prints money and the government reimburse those losses. So going concern, material uncertainty is available. Likewise in ISA. But what? There are mitigating actions as well. So audit reporting concerns are also there. Here, students, ideally, if the relevant material uncertainties are disclosed, you may go with a modified opinion. Sorry, you may go with an unmodified opinion, but the relevant going concern issues, material uncertainties of going concern, you should explain in your going concern paragraph in the audit report. If the management has disclosed the matters, properly disclosed, unmodified opinion, but going concern issues, material uncertainties, disclosed in the going concern section of the audit report. And also you may think about giving an emphasis of matter paragraph as well. Right? SLA US 570 states you like that. And on the other hand, students, if the relevant going concern issues are not disclosed, material uncertainties are not disclosed, then it will become a material misstatement. So qualified or adverse opinion, you may have to modify your audit opinion. So this going concern I wanted to take as the first point, because when you see the case from the onset, going concern is a matter that will become a kind of a questionable area at your exam. So everyone, SLA US 570, Sri Lanka Auditing Standard number 570, Just go through it. Identify what are the financial, operating, and other indicators that are there, like the losses, the flight scheduling issues, the reputation damages, right? As well as students, maybe very weak, old, modern, weak, old aircraft fleet that they have, and pilots are moving out to international carriers. When you have all these things, you have material uncertainties of going concern. But if the government is giving you that particular financial backing for the business to run, usage of going concern assumption may be valid, but still the material uncertainties are there. So the disclosures are needed in the annual report. If the disclosures are done, yes, unmodified opinion with regard to going concern, but going concern material uncertainties should be disclosed in going concern area in the audit report, and a particular emphasis of matter you may provide. If the relevant disclosures are not done, students, then it will become what? Then it will become a modified opinion through adverse or disclaimer of adverse or qualified opinion, because it's a misstatement which is material and sometimes become pervasive. And when you request, right, I'm giving you another scenario. When you request from the management, there are preliminary assessment of going concern, because Sri Lanka Auditing Standard number 570 allows you to request the management. There are preliminary assessment of going concern. If the management doesn't provide you that, you may go ahead with a kind of another modified opinion. Auditor unable to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, where you may disclaim your opinion. So SLAUS 570, the 4 to 5 different alternative action plans with regard to your audit report, as I told you, just go through. Get hold of your strategic level notes or PowerPoints or whatever. Students, those 3 to 4 points I told you, definitely going concern will be an area in your exam. Today I'm telling you, on Wednesday you will see the results, right? Going concern will be an important area. SLAUS 570 you have to have in your mind. Okay, that's all about that, because students, we are running out of time. Only 1 hour we have. Island Sky Logistics Private Limited, it's a subsidiary which is a logistic freight storage and distribution services essential for the airline's operations. Then aircraft maintenance, like the Sri Lankan Airline Maintenance Division, they have a aircraft maintenance division as well. When you refer the governance, because if you come up as an external auditor, still the governance is relevant to you, because you have to deal with the board of directors. You should be independent from the board of directors. And if you are working as an internal auditor, still you have a problem, because internal auditor, you have to directly report to those charged with governance, like the audit committee, like the chairman and the board of directors. You have to work with them. And if you are working as the finance director or financial controller, still you have to have governance in your mind, because it's your company's the good governance process. So if the board of directors are taken into consideration, you have a person called Aravinda Gunawardana, chairman, who is a senior advisor to the Ministry of Finance, providing strategic guidance on public sector investments. So since it is a company which is owned by the government of Sri Lanka, so public sector officials are there, Aravinda Gunawardana. Then one of the major concerns with regard to the board of directors for me is Vinushi Ratnayaka, the second director. A director at a state-owned transport enterprise overseeing major infrastructure projects. She also serves on the board of Great Travel, a travel agency, and she holds shares in this entity as well. Now, she is the director in ISA, the airline, and she is a director of a travel agency, right? Vinushi having a conflict of interest, Lamai. Vinushi having a conflict of interest. Friends, Vinushi having a conflict of interest. Ideally, in the board, you should not keep people who are having conflict of interest, because Vinushi, her ticketing agency, can get kind of out of the market, out of the normal kind of trading terms with regard to airline ticket reservations. Vinushi can have preferential fees, preferential terms with regard to ticket reservations. So she clearly has a conflict of interest. Ideally, she should not be there in the board. Vinushi, one problem that we have identified, conflict of interest with regard to Vinushi. Then the next one, Chandimal Jayakodi, a former senior official of the central bank with extensive experience in regulatory oversight. Because airline industry students, there are lot of regulations are there in flight, outside the flight, tour operating, flight operation. Lot of regulatory compliances you need to have. But the problem is, what does the central bank are doing in an airline board? That's something that we have to think. Should it be a central bank or should it be a kind of a airline professional who is having compliance knowledge? That's something that we have to consider. Dinesh Kulasekar, a specialist in aviation industry, over 20 years experience in the aviation industry. Yes, that's quite fine. Edward Ferdinand's a renowned aviation expert, previously holding a leadership position in international airline. So that's good. Fiona Patterson. I have a problem with this Fiona Peterson as well. A seasoned financial consultant with the expertise in infrastructure financing and public-private partnership. She's a financial consultant, students. We don't know whether she is yes, she's a consultant, but we don't know whether she is a member of CA Sri Lanka or an accepted finance body. We have a doubt there. So put a star mark on Fiona Patterson as well, because we don't know whether she is a chartered accountant or not. Because ideally in this kind of a business, chartered accountant should be there who should provide financial insight to the board. But Fiona Patterson, I don't think, right? She has another problem. She also has a conflict of interest with the chairman. So we will take up that particular point as well. See, the board members' remuneration in total is 550 million per annum. So that is a disclosure that you got to make. The senior management total remuneration you have to disclose in the annual report has to happen. When the problem maker, the travel agency where Binushi Ratnayaka is a board member accounted for 20% of the airline ticketing sales. So Binushi's travel agency does 20% of the ticket sales to this airline. So Binushi is not independent and Binushi is having a conflict of interest as well. So you should be on alert whether there are proper related party disclosures. Students, another point, better you write down. Ideally, related party transactions disclosures, very important from the auditing perspective, because this may lead into material misstatements in the financial statements if they do not disclose these points. Will become material misstatements, will have repercussions with regard to material misstatements, would lead to modified audit opinion based on qualified or adverse opinion because of material misstatement if the related party transactions and relationships are not disclosed appropriately. Right? Binushi's travel agency is one point. See the another point. The board of directors has formed a board subcommittee such as remuneration committee and audit committee. Audit committee comprised of following people: Fiona Patterson, chairperson; Binushi Ratnayaka, the lady who had the conflict of interest with regard to ticketing agency, is in the audit committee. Students, we all know audit committee should ensure good governance and discipline within the company. Now, how do you ensure good governance and discipline when you have Binushi Ratnayaka, who is having a conflict of interest where she does ticketing sales with regard to the airline? She is in the audit committee. So ideally, Binushi had to be removed. From governance angle, having Binushi in the audit committee, we have a problem. She is not independent. She is not independent and having a conflict of interest. Chandimal Jayakodi is the chairman, right? Sorry, not the chairman, former central bank official. Any questions so far? The audit committee meets quarterly with an average attendance rate of 2/3 over the past year, right? Only 2/3 attendance ratio. The minutes of the meetings indicate, now here you have a major shortcoming, major weakness of the audit committee. Indicate a primary focus on reviewing compliance reports and quarterly financial statements. I have a problem here. Audit committee primarily focus on reviewing compliance reports and quarterly financial statements. No way. Audit committee, as per the audit committee charter, as per code of corporate governance, the scope of audit committee is much more wider. Audit committee should be in charge of compliance, in charge of financial reporting, should liaise with external auditors, should oversee internal audit function, internal controls, risk management, everything are part of audit committee's work. But here they are only overseeing compliance and financial reporting. That's not adequate. However, the minutes of the meetings lack content. Meeting minutes are also lacking content. So audit committee, students, is quite in a mess, right? You can't rely on the audit committee findings. Audit committee is having its shortcomings, right? So audit committee ideally should be overseeing internal audit, external audit, liaise with them, compliance, then risk management, internal controls, internal audit, all those. But their scope is only for 2 areas only. So address that point also in the exam. When the video recording is uploaded, students, you go through this class again, right? ISA has key policies on areas including key business processes, conflict of interest, procurement, supply management, and finance management. The company has created a code of conduct grounded in core values, which has been shared with all the employees throughout the organization. A protocol for raising ethical concerns has been established along with whistleblower channel for reporting. So they have a whistleblower reporting as well. That's quite good. Now the internal audit function. Internal audit also has some weaknesses. ISA has an internal audit function tasked with providing assurance on the effectiveness of the company's governance, risk management, and internal control systems. The team reports directly to the audit committee. That's good. The division is headed by DM Pereira, internal audit, who was recently appointed following a long tenure in airlines procurement department. Disaster. Students, DM Pereira, friends, DM Pereira, who worked in the procurement division. Procurement means what? Procurement means one of the main areas where you see high risk of bribes, high risk of inefficiencies, high risk of all sorts of stuff. So he is heading the procurement department. That's a disaster. Yeah, procurement head karne ka disaster ka lamai. Because now, since he is there, he has a familiarity threat with regard to this department. Familiarity. Why? The people who are at the procurement department, whom should be scrutinized specifically, are friends of him, are colleagues of him. He has familiarity threat from ethics, and also he has self-review threat as well. Why? Whatever the procurement processes which he has developed during his tenure until last year, now he is auditing it back again as internal auditor. Self-review threat is there. Familiarity threat is there. Once I'm telling you guys, write it, right? Familiarity threat and self-review threat is there. Okay. Supporting him are 3 assistants who joined the company immediately after A-levels. Now, internal audit is supported by 3 people from after A-levels. Their primary responsibilities including payment, payroll, and human resource matters only. Students, will you ever believe that this particular internal audit department works? They have a lack of staffing issue. They have a lack of professional competence in them, right? And lack of scope. They are not evaluating all the areas. So internal audit department is also ineffective. They are not independent as well. They have a self-review threat. They have familiarity threat as well, right? Notably, several key operational areas such as fleet maintenance. Maintenance is an area where frauds, risk can happen. Passenger and cargo revenue, ticketing pricing, data security, system security, procurement, compliance have not been subjected to internal audit review for 4 years. Disaster. Ideally, they should have an internal auditor who is professionally qualified. They need to have internal audit chart as well. Internal auditor should be given the mandate by the board to cover the entire operation and finance of the business, including internal controls. So, but they don't have it. So address that point at the exam. So ideally, internal auditor should be a independent person from the operations, not the DM Pereira. A different person has to be there. So a kind of adequate staff members has to be recruited to internal audit department. Internal audit performance has to be evaluated quarterly or monthly or annually. Internal auditor should be given the kind of confidence to work independently. But here it is not there. So the points that I told you, just jot down in your notebook and reproduce at the exam. You will pass the exam. C. The current internal audit methodology relies on a standardized checklist. Internal audit students is not having a risk-based approach. They have a standardized checklist and manual processes. Furthermore, industry-specific areas such as aviation, safety regulations, fuel cost management, aircraft lease payments, and customer data protection has never been within the internal audit scope. So ideally, they need to redraft their internal audit charter because internal audit lacks the scope to evaluate all the areas. Following matters have been identified. Now, their scope is very much limited, right? All the major important areas they have not evaluated. The important areas we are going to evaluate karla naha lama. See, inventory controls. Discrepancies were identified in inventory management for spare parts and things like that, leading to a potential wastage and loss of approximately 400 million rupees annually. Annually 400 million loss. Apply your materiality thresholds, 5% of profit before tax, and see whether this is material. If no disclosure done, would result in a material misstatement. Apply 5% of PBT rule, students, and see whether this is material or not. Non-compliance with procurement policies. The audit revealed that 30% of procurement contracts awarded in 2024 did not follow the established competitive bidding process. So frauds would have happened. Here they have a fraud risk, students. Sri Lanka auditing standard number 240. Fraud risk. Ideally, fraud audit procedures, fraud risk triangle, opportunity, motivation and pressure, and rationale. Here, a lot of opportunities are there for fraud. And there is a lot of motivations for fraud as well. See. Right? Finance division. The finance division is responsible for overseeing companies' financial reporting. Despite its critical role in ensuring financial health, this is another major concern. Opportunity for fraud, Lamai. Opportunity for fraud. The function is currently operating without a chief finance officer. Opportunity for fraud. Internal audit having conflict of interest, and CFO what? CFO his position is now vacant. Following the departure of the previous CFO 6 months ago, now they don't have a CFO. In the interim, finance manager Nalini Jayawardena has been handling the day-to-day responsibilities of the role. While Nalini has considerable experience, this is the first time she is doing with regard to strategic matters. So Nalini is incapable. In their board, they don't have person who is conversant in finance. Fiona Patterson, we don't know whether she is qualified or not. And in the other side, Nalini, finance, the person who is handling finance right now, is also not qualified. To address the complex accounting and financing matters, company has engaged a consultant with significant expertise in IFRS. They have hired a consultant. This consultant is a close relative associated with the chairman. Chairman's close relative. So independence issue with the finance controller, finance consultant, raising questions about transparency. Additionally, consultant fees substantially higher than the industry norms. So very poor, very poor. Governance-wise, students, companies very poor. Board, do you have conflict of interest? In finance consultant role also, you have a conflict of interest. Chairman and consultant are known together for so many times. Familiar with threat as well. Any questions so far? Okay. Finance team comprises mix of experienced accountants and junior staff who handle routine tasks such as payroll. Finance staff do payroll processing, invoice verification, cash flow monitoring. However, strategically important areas like long-term financial planning, right? Financing planning, foreign currency exposure management. Because if you are a airline students, a lot of foreign currency exposures you have. Your ticketing, your fuel cost, all these are exposed to what? Foreign currency transaction and translation risk. If you don't have a kind of a person who is conversant on foreign currency transactions, derivative hedging is out of your scope. So finance function is poorly staffed. You don't have proper people. So ideally, finance director, financial controller has to be a member of CA Sri Lanka, which here you don't see. Right? Strategic initiatives such as negotiating funding arrangements and aligning financial reporting lack clear direction. No proper direction with regard to strategic financing function. How do they do? Because students, the CFO position is vacant. Risk management division. This division is headed by Anura Fernando, who has been in the company for over a decade. While Anura has extensive experience in operational risk management, his expertise does not extend fully onto strategic and financial aspect of risk. Students, Anura Fernando knows operational risk of an airline. He's coming from the airline industry. But the strategic risk, how to run the business strategically, how to make strategic tax planning, how to strategically manage the finance, he lacks knowledge. I would say at the board level and management level, company has lot of downturn effects with regard to knowledge and talent. Company එකේ ළමයි knowledge and talent එක මාර අඩුයි. Okay. Students, give me a moment. See. So what are the strategic responses they have taken with regard to the risk that the company faces? Company එකේ risk වලට මොනවාද strategic actions? What sort of strategic actions they have taken? See. And extract from the recent risk mitigation plan of the companies like this. See, now they don't have proper strategic finance function. Fuel price fluctuations, mitigation strategy, monitor fuel price trends and adjust budgets accordingly. Action plan, monitor fuel prices and adjust budgets. Students, fuel price fluctuations, is it the budget adjustment that's your mitigation action? No, no. You need to have, ideally for fuel price fluctuations, proper hedging strategy. You can't do hedging if you don't have people who know hedging. So in terms of fuel price fluctuations, they are a flop. Then cybersecurity vulnerabilities, right? Enhance IT security protocols to safeguard company data. Cybersecurity vulnerabilities, they have a problem there. Cybersecurity, they have a massive data breach. Until 7 days, people don't know. So chief risk officer is not there. For this kind of an airline, you need to have a chief risk officer, which they don't have. That knowledge they don't have. Regulatory changes, a compliance officer has to be there. Stay updated with changes in aviation laws and regulations. So action plan, regulatory review and update policies based on new regulations. But regulatory compliance monitoring internal auditor doesn't do. So internal audit function also they have a kind of weakness. Reputational damage, maintain good public relationships, strengthen social media presence, right? Still there is no timeline for them. Most of the risk management timelines not applied. Risk management time frames are not there. Operational disruptions, improve maintenance schedules of staff, maintenance logs to improve. No one to supervise all this. Now, students, it's running an airline is not like running a bus service, no. Why? In terms of operational disruptions in airline operational disruption, right? If there is an operational disruption, that is catastrophic, right? That could be the end of the story of the airline. So maintenance logs are not properly maintained. A lot of issues. Completion of market risk. Monitor market trends, price adjustments. So a few months before the financial year end, company experienced a cybersecurity breach, a huge governance lapse. Cybersecurity breach, students. Now, cybersecurity breach means they compromise customer data. Customer data has been hacked. Investigations reveal that the proposed mitigating actions for identified risk has not been implemented. No one to follow up, no one to supervise on risk, no one to follow up on risk. Ideally, chief risk officer has to be there. The board is pretty much not having skills to manage risk. Ideally, in the board meetings, risk mitigating actions should be discussed. To what extent these actions are implemented, what are the outcomes, has to be evaluated. Competitor pricing, all these things has to be evaluated, but it is not happening. Monthly, quarterly, these reports has to go to the board. Board should evaluate. This data breach, until 7 days, they have not identified. It's a massive loss. They lose reputation because of that. Critical legal actions risk is there. Contingent liabilities, right? Provisioning for legal expenses, provisioning based on the outcome of legal actions. You may have to do provisions. You may have to do disclosures for contingent liabilities of potential legal damages. Has to do. Right? Very important. Provisioning, disclosures, all these factors should be in your mind. If those provisioning not done for possible, right, for probable security breaches or probable legal actions and outcome of legal damages, students, it will result in a material misstatement and you may have to modify your opinion. Okay. See, operations. Given 1 hour, I'm just taking maximum my effort to discuss these points with you, right? To enlighten you on the areas that you have to look for. So ideally, I'm saying the board is quite pathetic. Remember, students, a lot of material misstatements are there. The possibilities are there. The fraud risk is there. Going concern risk is there. Compliance issues are there, right? Frauds, kickbacks, ethical issues. The self-review threat is there. Familiarity threat is there. All those are there. May video ka baran lama, yeah? Look at this video once again. Once or twice. ISA, in its pursuit of expanding its network, has leased all its aircrafts under operating lease, right? These lease arrangements include some significant clauses, including variable lease payments. While the current model of leasing aircraft offers flexibility, it brings significant financial commitments as well. So, evaluate the provisioning as well, right? Particularly to the Europe, you have a fuel price, you are not competitive enough. The airline has faced issues with regard to service reliability. Maintenance delays have led to cancellations, things like that. Despite the challenges, the airline continued to grow. If you see, students, the numbers, 2023 and 24, passengers carried 4.2 million to 3.9 million, 300,000 reduction. Passenger load factor, right, 75% to 72%. Overall load carried 1.2 million metric tons. The load of customers they carried 1.1 million 2024. Overall load 62%. If you see the revenue composition, passenger carries 146, cargo 60 billion, right? Percentages are given. Airport terminal services, engineering, charters, mail services, that's their income. 264 billion worth of income is there. IT environment. See, they have serious amount of IT issues as well, operational risk areas. The company uses various systems for tracking, fleet management, maintenance, financial reporting. First one is the ticketing system. Ticketing system has faced intermittent outages. System downtimes are there. So when a particular, maybe a passenger booking a ticket, system goes down. So his time will be wasted. There will be inefficiencies. Frauds can happen. Students, reputational damage as well. Right? The system's slow response times and lack of integration to payment platforms have created friction in the customer experience, increasing the chances for errors in transaction processing. Students, ticketing system not properly traction to ticket to payment system. So there can be payments not recorded sometimes. Frauds can happen in the ticketing system. Fraud risk is there in ticketing. Fleet management system. Status of performance of the aircraft has not been fully optimized. That's a disaster. Fleet management, if you do not manage your fleet and operations properly, students, outdated software and things like that, if a particular aircraft crashes, end of the business. So this creates a going concern risk as well. Risk of going concern, SLAS 520. Maintenance systems criticize poor real-time insights are not there. See, the maintenance management system has also been criticized for its inability to provide comprehensive real-time insights into aircraft health, maintenance history. You can't see the aircraft health, aircraft performance. You don't see that. So going concern risk is there. Huge amount of operational lapses are there. So what does the internal audit department is doing? You putting former operations employee as a, procurement employee as a chief internal auditor. What you are doing? Audit committee is sleeping, students. Governance lapses are there. Right? Key staffs. See, a system outage in 2024, operational loss, resulted in an estimated revenue loss of 600 million. Students, that's not small amounts, right? 600 million material amounts. Significant customer dissatisfaction was also there. These should be disclosed. If not disclosed, material misstatements. Data integrity at risk, cybersecurity risk, all those are there. Key staff. The company's experience. This is where another risk of going concern, material uncertainty of going concern. Key risks with regard to key staff, including pilots, due to unattractive compensation packages. Salaries are not that enough. People are leaving. Many pilots and technical staff have left for international careers. It's a risk of going concern. Litigation, risk of provisions, probable obligations, right? The airline is currently involved in significant litigation concerning breach of contract with a leasing company. They can see whether it is in the exam, students, whether it is creating a probable obligation, right? If so, provisioning needed. If not, disclosures has to be done. If those are not done, material misstatement, qualified or adverse opinion based on the circumstance. Key financial figures, students, 24 and 23. Revenue, given revenue has come down. Operating losses has increased. Net loss has also increased. 60 billion, right? Property, plant, equipment, right to use assets. If you see, accumulated losses are also there, right? Current assets are 481 million. Current liabilities are there. Lease liabilities are also there. See, an independent actuary has involved in valuation of retirement benefit obligations as well. So see, operational cash flow itself is bleeding. Operation itself is bleeding, students. You lose money. 42 billion operational loss. Operational cash flow negative. Investing cash flow also negative. Financing activity only from government debt, you are getting 66 billion. That is positive. But net cash flow also, students, negative. Revenue, right? Segmental information are also given. Only catering service and logistics are making profits. sorry, yes, catering, right? Logistics incurring profits as well. Sustainability students, right? Sustainability standards, S1 and S2. Airlines are one of the main polluters of the world, globe. Their fuel emissions, their carbon dioxide emissions, CO2 emissions are so huge. So, sustainability standards, before you go to exam, evaluate. The integrated reporting also really important. How much amount of sustainability parameters, KPIs they impose, right? What are the disclosures that they got to do? What disclosures they got to run S1 and S2 sustainability standards students go through before the exam. ISA recognizes the growing importance of sustainability in the aviation industry, especially in the light of increased regulatory requirements and consumer expectations. As a result, the airline has committed to several initiatives designed to significantly reduce environmental impact. These initiatives are not just aimed at meeting regulatory requirements, but also align with global environmental goals. Carbon emission reduction they have planned, so you need to have KPIs for that. And also then you have to disclose them. Sustainability standards, right? You have to disclose, set KPIs, disclose. Sustainable aviation fuel you have to use. Fuel usage should be reduced by 5%. To what extent you are achieving that, you need to have. Waste management, green energy airports has to have. Strategic AI initiative. They are moving on to AI as well. ISA is in the journey of bracing artificial intelligence in the broader strategy of the organization. So AI-powered predictive maintenance, route optimization through AI, fuel efficiency, customer service, things like that, right? So investments they are planning, predictive maintenance, route optimization, customer service chatbots, right? They are going to do certain investments in AI as well. AI investments, artificial intelligence investments they are going to do with payback period returns as well. Ideally, you need to scrutinize whether these AI investments are worthwhile or not. External auditor, right? See, the external auditor, last parts of the pre-scene, external auditor of ISA is Silverstone and Company, member of the international network. Silverstone has been long-standing auditor of ISA for over 5 years. Gradually, for auditors also, students, independence issue is building up familiarity, providing audit and advisory services to the company. You need to verify whether the advisory services constitute of permissible advisory services. Because certain non-assurance work you can't do for a listed company, right? Listed company but a certain advisory services you can't do. Okay. So see whether the advisory services are permitted. Silverstone operates with a partnership model and employs 15 partners. Despite the small market size, the firm has extensive network. Professionals are there. They provide audit, tax, consultancy work, right? Audit work, tax work, consultancy, everything there. So if due diligence, right? I feel like due diligence assignment coming in. Or maybe need for agreed upon procedures. Okay. A review engagement for a possible share issue or whatever, prospectus. So see whether whatever coming in, whether they are permitted as per governance, whether there is an independence issue for them, whether it is a permitted issue. So internal audit services, if the auditors are asked to do internal audit services, ideally they should not. They can't do. Why? Because students, this is a PLC listed company providing internal audit services to audit client creates a threat to independence for the audit firm. So internal audit services possibly you can't do. Maybe certain advisor roles you can't do, right? So due diligence services you may do, but the fees should not be that much significant. Independence you need to have. Agreed upon procedures, you need to do separately. Independence issues should not be, your fee income should be kind of lesser than 15% of the total fee income. So Silverstone has established various specialized roles. Key roles are technical partner. Firm has a technical partner responsible for technical quality. Risk management partner focuses on managing and mitigating risk of operations, overseeing firm's risk management. Partner responsible for independence. Ethics partner. Ethics and compliance partner is there. Human resource partner. Risk and quality partner. Clientele. Silverstone serves wide range of clients from large multinational operations to local businesses. The client base has high-profile companies like telco, banking, and manufacturing. So for the firm, in terms of ISA, see whether certain new services they ask, whether they are permitted. Internal audit, I would say categorically you can't do. Internal control, implementation, and advisory you can't do. Only review you can do, right? Taxation, tax administration you can do, but tax computation better you avoid. But tax consultation, advisory you may do, right? Agreed upon procedures you may do, provided the fee incomes are less. Due diligence you may do, but provided fee income is less. So ideally, quality control has to be here, right? Separate review of the audit file has to be there. Quality control has to be there at the firm level and engagement level. Those kind of factors you have to think about. So I know there has to be an audit opinion impact that you have to draft, right? So evaluate the misstatements, the fraud risk, the non-compliance risk, the going concern risk, right? Network quality inspections. Silverstone, along with its engagements, is subjected to periodic practice reviews, quality inspections by their global network quality inspection program as well. These reviews are conducted periodically to assess the professional quality standards. So everybody, that's basically that, right? We took quite 1 hour, like an express bus we did it, right? Hopefully we covered all the areas. Let me see whether the chat box. Can auditors rely upon their system-generated reports, including the trial balance and financial statements? Right, Supun is asking. If not, what should be the auditor's approach? Ideally, the system generated these reports because they have so much of weaknesses in terms of their systems, right? So you should not much rely on them. So ideally, you have to have kind of controls should also be evaluated. First, you have to be pretty much sure about their controls. If you are not sure about their controls, you got to go for a substantive testing in detail. In detail, you got to do testing and you got to establish. Subun, maybe if you are not sure about their risk in terms of the system, mostly you have to go for detailed substantive testing, verify the assertions through detailed testing. When you are doing detailed testing, as much as possible, call for confirmations. Confirmations from the suppliers, confirmations from the debtors, confirmations from the bankers, or maybe lenders, or maybe the government, maybe from the related parties. Wherever possible, call confirmations. Rely on external stuff, not the internal stuff. So go for substantive testing. Any more? Guys, any more questions? Right. As a concluding remark, students, because we have allocated only 1 hour. Again, I'm reiterating. Going concern risk is there. There is the fraud risk, multiple. Operational risks are there. Strategic risk is there. Then you have compliance risk is there, right? All sorts of risks. So ideally at the exam, you may have to modify the opinion. So circumstances that will lead to providing a kind of modified opinion. There are a lot of modified opinion circumstances are there. Chances of misstatements, related party disclosures, right? Going concern issues. There are a lot of those kind of factors. Internal auditor, the internal audit department is understaffed, and also external auditor students, the maintenance of independence has to be there. Independence issues are there for the board as well. Board lacks diversity. Board lacks competence. Board lacks financial acumen. So because of that, I would say the cybersecurity risks, all those risks are there. So address those risks at the exam. I prefer you all. Ajit? Yes, Senaga. Sustainability issues affect the audit opinion as well, right? If they don't make the necessary disclosures, that will become a material misstatement, right? Yes, risk management team is competent on operational areas, but not on the strategic risk. That means the strategic risk areas are not properly addressed. That's why I would say that they have flight cancellations, schedule issues, right? A lot of operational issues. Those are there. Ajit, you are correct, right? Fantastic. Anything else before we conclude? Okay, now, so students, in the meantime, my contact number may be with you for many of you. 07722819115, 07722819115. We just quickly finished within one hour this entire pre-scene, which is quite an impossible task, but we did that. In the meantime, I wish you all the best for your examination, because we know more. We need more practicing members. So I think all of you will pass. And in the meantime, if you need any assistance, any help, friends, just give me a ring. We will help you out. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day and good luck for the exam. Thank you.